that's kind of what this is. This is a prove it race of like, show us and prove to us that Gans Creek was just a fluke. And I honestly don't know what's going to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Blue Oval Podcast. My name is Garrett Zatlin, and yes, if you are listening to my voice, that means there is no Ben today. Unfortunately, he just had life get in the way. It happens. He's allowed to have that happen. So just me today, a little bit last minute of a solo pod, but we're going to make it work. And of course, it's going to be a big one because of course we are talking about Nuttycombe Invite preview today. I'm going to go over all the top teams, contenders, teams to watch, underdogs, all that jazz, both in the men's and women's races. Not sure we'll have time to get to pre-nationals today, but we'll be able to preview Nuttycombe, the biggest meet of the year, which we will be on site for. Also, other good pieces of news, +1 on Apple, +1 on Spotify, up to 125 on Apple, and I believe up to 215 on Spotify. Got a new rating and review on Apple. I believe this was one that said, the Stride always delivers on solid college cross-country and TNF content. Super easy, super simple. Thank you to whoever left that review. We sincerely appreciate it. Quick news before we start. We got a Colorado workout, not Wednesday. That's the old Flow Track branding for it. But we have the Colorado workout video coming later this week. We're still putting the finishing touches on it, working on that, but it looks really good and really excited about that. Still working out a few of the kinks, right? Still trying to clean things up. We're still pretty new to this kind of space to it, but I think it's a really, really solid first try for us, and I'm excited about it. So also, if you haven't already, go subscribe on YouTube. A lot of traction there. Thank you to everyone who is following along there. All right. It's Nuttycombe taking place this Friday, October 17th. We'll have previews and predictions out for that. And of course, we'll have on-site coverage via Griffin, who will be able to get some photos for us. But let's jump right into it. We'll get into the men's side on the team side today. And then we'll, of course, jump to the women. Here are, very quickly, the men's teams competing at Nuttycombe this Friday. That is Butler, BYU, Colorado Baptist, Colorado Duke, Eastern Kentucky, Furman, Georgetown, Gonzaga, Harvard, Indiana, Iona, Iowa State, Lipscomb, Louisville, Michigan, Michigan State, New Mexico, North Carolina State, Northern Arizona, Notre Dame, Portland, Stanford, Syracuse, Tulane, Tulsa, Utah State, Villanova, Washington State, and Wisconsin. Now, who are the favorites? Well, if you were able to catch enough of the teams in there, in my listing of it, I think you would know that Iowa State will come in as the favorites, but not overwhelmingly so. That's because New Mexico is also in this field. Iowa State will undeniably be the favorites coming into this. They were exceptional at the Gans Creek Classic. They only validated their TSR #1 preseason ranking with that performance. At that meet, they went 2-6-7, 13-19. They had 3 men in the top 10. Joash Ruto was second. Robin Kiwabera, Sonoma Sando again. Those guys going 7th and 6th. Rogers Kiplima 13th and Misha Kimutai in 19th. On paper, Iowa State's just the better team in this field by comparison. Now, you could argue, hey, New Mexico might actually be better through 4 runners, especially if they field Hapham Samuel. You know, if they have Hapham Samuel, then it Hapham Samuel, Vincent Chirchir, Collins Kiprotich, and Evans Kiplagat, which in a best case scenario could potentially match Iowa State. I think I might still take Iowa State in that scenario. But Iowa State is complete through 5 runners. They are. And that's because Misha Kimutai from Kenya came over with some fantastic times. And 19th at Gans Creek in his very first real test of the season. That only signals that he'll be even better in a race that is probably similar to Gans Creek in terms of the field size and the caliber of it. And I would probably expect Iowa State to take this win because of that 5th spot. And I say that because New Mexico's Matthew Cosby, who was kind of our projected 5th man for New Mexico this season, didn't look great at the Cowboy Jamboree. Like, he wasn't awesome. I think he faded back to 18th. Now, Iker Sanchez Lopez, who was run 13:37 in the 5K, He was 11th, I want to say, at Cowboy Jamboree. And he's a really nice fifth man to have if Koski is not going to be at top form, right? Now, the challenge with that is that despite how promising Sanchez Lopez is, he's still just probably not going to be as good as the fifth man for Iowa State. And that's ultimately, I think, what the main focal difference point is going to be here. And not only that, but, let's be honest, New Mexico's also had challenges with consistency with a handful of their top guys. Now, I feel pretty good about their top four. I think Samuel, Kipchirchir, Kiprotich, and who was the other name? Kiplagat. I think those four men are, I don't want to say the best top four in the country. I think Iowa State may still have claim to that. But that's about as close as you're going to get through four runners to Iowa State as you can get. That's pretty good. At the end of the day, it's the fifth runner. And plus, if let's say both teams' fifth runners implode, then I still like Iowa State through six. Devin Kipyego is a very serviceable guy who could come in there as the fifth scorer for a national caliber team. So I am taking Iowa State officially. You can tab it here unless something comes out in the entries. So the entries are not, we have the team entries, but we do not have the actual athletes listed for each team. Unless there's something, there's key omissions that come out in those actual individual entries for Nuttycombe, I will take Iowa State. So something to keep in mind there. Outside of those two teams as what I consider to be the favorites, I think there are contenders. And yes, I did leave BYU out of the favorites category. Yes, I know that they were fifth at Gans Creek Classic without James Corrigan and without Thomas Boyden. But even with those guys, I still question if BYU could have really come all that close to Iowa State or even New Mexico. And I just don't think that they could have. Not if you run the math on it from last the Gans Creek Classic. So I think I'm going to put BYU more in the contender tier. And with them, I'm going to put Colorado, and with them, I'm going to put Wisconsin. Those are the three teams where it's like, hey, listen, could they win? Sure, they could. But a lot of things would need to go right. So, multiple names on Iowa State, one or two key names on New Mexico would need to really struggle, falter, DNF, whatever it may be. And then either BYU or Colorado or Wisconsin, we need to have exceptionally great days. Thing with BYU, I don't first off think that any of those three teams, BYU, Colorado, or Wisconsin, I don't think they have the firepower to match Iowa State. I don't think they have the firepower to match New Mexico. I do think that they are very complete teams. I think they're very deep teams. I do think that they have low sticks, and they do have, components and aspects of low stick firepower. I just don't think it's nearly as potent as what the Cyclones or Lobos have. I like Colorado. Like Colorado a lot. I think we kind of robbed them of a few spots in our rankings. I think we just kind of wanted to say like, hey, we want to see you, see how it goes again when you're in another major field. But, when you take a look at Givens, when you take a look at Serum, when you take a look at, man, guys, who I'm not even thinking of off the top of my head. I mean, Dean Casey, we know can be better in the future than he was, and he was still pretty darn good. There's a lot of avenues for Colorado to really make things interesting. I could see Colorado getting pretty close to the win. Maybe not outright winning, but maybe getting within 15 points. I could see a scenario where they pack together, run well, and then go from there. But yeah, I'm high on Colorado. So Wisconsin, I think the thing with Wisconsin is that there's no clear firepower. There's no clear low stick ace. We didn't really learn a whole lot about them at the Loyola Lakefront Invite. And in this field, you can have great depth. And I would almost tab them, racing on their home course to be a top 5 team as a lock. I think there'll be a lock top 5 team on Saturdays as long as everyone runs well, especially because they're running on their home course and they're crazy deep. Their floor should be exceptionally high. Trying to get the low stick firepower will be challenging. It will. the other teams on watch. That's what I'm calling this new category. Not necessarily, maybe like a mix of like wild cards, but like maybe also a mix of like interesting storylines to watch, like teams that need to prove themselves or have proven themselves recently and now need to validate a recent breakout performance. It's kind of a mosh posh of things, right? So here are my teams who are on watch. And one of them, the number one team, is Stanford, no question. I don't know what to expect from Stanford, but they were what? They dropped to 15th in our rankings. And even with Lex Young, it would have taken a great day from Lex Young to have Stanford be a top 10 team at Gans Creek. Do I think Stanford is better than what they showed at Gans Creek? Yeah, I do. I do think Stanford is better than that. But like, how much better? And that's where the big question lies. Hopefully they have a full lineup and hopefully they all collectively run better. I think they're better than what they showed at Gans Creek, but like this is now kind of the okay, well, fine. You had your off day. You didn't have Lex Young. We saw that. We acknowledge that. We'll be patient on it. But now show us. And this is kind of the prove it. That's kind of what this is. This is a prove it race of like show us and prove to us that Gans Creek was just a fluke. And I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. Notre Dame, I think this is just them in general as a program where, you know, we have high expectations for them and then they don't ever really fully showcase that talent. And this is kind of the meet where we kind of get a better idea of that. This is not like make or break for Notre Dame by any means, but I do think this will tell us a lot. Excuse me. Same thing for Northern Arizona. Good team. Had what did they get? They were 8th at Gans Creek Classic without Colin Solomon and without Cale Grotenhuis. Eric LaRue looks great as a potential low stick, but like let's try to get a better idea of where this team actually lies in the national standings, right? Like just how good are they? Because in a weird way, Gans Creek Classic kind of validated our TSR number 14 preseason ranking of Northern Arizona. But it almost feels like we're missing something. So Northern Arizona is on my watch list. North Carolina and Washington, two teams that were flat out awful at Loyola, especially North Carolina. Washington didn't have Gorsey, right? They didn't have Evan Jenkins. They didn't run a handful of key names. And so for that reason, I'm like, okay, you know what? Ruben Reyna was 20th, I want to say. Yeah, he was 20th. I think Jamar Deastal will be better. There's guys in the future that will be better. So, like, we didn't see Josiah Tostenson. I'm being a little more lenient on Washington than I am North Carolina. Because even if you plug in all the best case scenario options for North Carolina at Loyola, they still struggle. They're still severely underwhelmed. And like I'm again kind of like Stanford, willing to step back and be like, okay, hey, listen, had a weird, fluky, bad, awful day, but now this is the meet where you kind of show up and prove it to us. Prove it. Eastern Kentucky, again, another just a weird team in general that if you're watching on YouTube, you can see me like rub my face and scrunch my eyes because I struggle to analyze this team. I struggle a lot. They have great firepower, but we have not seen Miguel Bidel from Spain. We have not seen him race this season. Justin Kipkowick has recorded a DNF in 2 of his last 3 races. He was, 4th or 5th, I want to say, at Louisville XC Classic, a meet where Eastern Kentucky ran like kind of an A lineup, but not really. It was really odd. Like, I just have no idea what I'm getting out of Eastern Kentucky, which has also kind of been like the theme of this team for the last, this is now the 3rd season where I feel like we just don't really know what we're getting out of Eastern Kentucky. They were 17th at Gans Creek, but again, I think that was because Kipkowick was a DNF. They had severe drop-offs at their 3-4 spots after their top 3, I should say. What a weird team, man. So much potential, so much talent, but just the cohesion is not there, and it hasn't been there. Like you just, and now listen, maybe Bidell comes in, maybe Kipkoa comes in, right? And maybe in that case, like this weekend is a completely different story for Eastern Kentucky, but almost like even if that was the case, that almost makes us even scratch our heads even more, right? Where it's like you just don't know what you're going to get out of them, and so Eastern Kentucky is on my quote unquote watch list. And then Georgetown. Georgetown wins the Paul Short run. It's a nice win. And they beat Utah State, they beat Texas A&M, and they beat a Harvard team that's not at full strength. Now, I will say, Harvard is an interesting team who was also listed in this field, I should mention. Harvard was 4th at Paul Short. And they were missing a couple key names. You know, Will Bruner was one, Farron Kovacs was the other, but they were also missing Shane Brosnan. And I was like, oh, well, great. When Shane Brosnan comes back, a guy who was like an honorable mention name in our preseason list, well, then this team's going to be way better. However, recently saw somewhere on the interwebs, I want to say it was TikTok, I don't really know, I kind of forget, Brosnan seems to be injured. And he had recorded a video or two of him, I guess, with what appears to be maybe like a broken foot or something in a cast for his foot or leg. I don't want to speculate. I don't know. But I had it based on just a couple of what the clips I saw. It seems unlikely that this guy's going to be going for this winter. And if that's the case, then that is a huge blow to Harvard. That's a really tough blow. And all of a sudden, the Northeast region gets a little more interesting. I still think Harvard gets out of the Northeast region, but like they've got a great top 3, so we'll see. But Harvard, a limited Harvard team, was one of the teams that Georgetown beat at Paul Short. Now, I think we were pleasantly surprised and encouraged by that result for Georgetown. They beat Utah State, runner-up Utah State, by 21 points. Now I just want to sit and do it again. Let's do it again. You know, like, can you replicate that kind of performance? I think it is also a little bit of a difficult Paul Short win to analyze because, like, we don't really know how good Utah State is. We don't really know how good Texas A&M is. Harvard, again, we just went through that whole thing. You know, what are they going to look like with a full lineup? We'll learn more about them this weekend. But like Georgetown's win suggests that they'll be competitive, but like how competitive? And I don't have a good answer for that. So I think that's why Georgetown's like one of my teams that are like are on watch. They're on watch. So let's see, underdogs. I got a handful here. Only 3, I should actually say. 3 underdogs. Now, just because, by the way, I should also preface all of this. You know, I don't have teams listed like Butler or Syracuse as favorites or as contenders. Contenders are like teams that, you know, could win, but it's not likely. Teams on watch are just teams that I think the storylines around them are interesting or just general trends are interesting. And then underdogs are teams that I think are undervalued in the eyes of the public, right? And so just because I don't mention certain teams like Butler, like I don't even know. Yeah, Butler and Washington State and Syracuse, just because I don't mention those teams doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're going to run poorly or that I don't think that they are going to be better or worse than a handful of the teams that I do mention. So, underdogs. I like Michigan State a lot. I think Riley Hogg is going to be awesome. He was fantastic at Gans Creek. I think that middle portion of their lineup, their 2-3-4 punch, is really crucial and stable and veteran and experienced and consistent. And I like it a lot. And I just think they're going to do so many great things. I mean, they were 1, they were between three. There are 2, 3, 4 scores finished between 68 and 73rd at Gans Creek. And, I say like, hey, this team is, experienced and consistent. Well, Lazawe Osterink in 68th place at Gans Creek. He's listed as a sophomore. Thomas Westfall, 73rd. He's listed as a freshman. And then Michael Haggerty down in 117th place. He's actually a sophomore. So it's actually like not that experienced of a team, but the cohesiveness of a really compact middle lineup group that can hold their own in large fields with a true star ace in Riley Hogg is going to be awesome. It's going to be huge. And I think that's just going to be conducive to a good result. I feel like also Michigan State's also going to have like other guys that like we're just not even like really like seeing right now. Like, let me take a look here. Would Parker Lambers be a key name who I'm not even thinking of? Yeah. He didn't have a great race at Gans Creek, but you know what? He was 30th at Great Lake Regionals. He was 123rd at pre-nationals last year, which might have been this year's equivalent of Nuttycombe. Like, I think he can actually be a pretty decent fifth scorer for this team if need be. So I like Michigan State. I think they're going to be pretty solid, high floor team. Am I willing to put them in the top 10? I wouldn't not put them in the top 10. I don't know. I guess you're going to have to find out the predictions when you see them on the site. Louisville's just an interesting team in the fact that like they have 3 legitimate low sticks. Elsingi Kipruto, he won Loyola Lakefront Invite, and then behind him were teammates Ian Kibiwad in 7th place, Jeffrey Kirwa in 8th place. It's a highly potent, lethal 1-2-3 punch that, in theory, if they just run up to par, should like keep Louisville pretty competitive in this field, right? Like the back end of Louisville's lineup is not great. Their 4 and 5 guys are not ideal by any means. But if the top 3 is just good enough, Louisville should, like, in theory, be a top 15 team in this field. In theory. And I know they were, 4th at Loyola? Yeah, they were 4th at Loyola. But mathematically, I think it leans in their favor if they get 3 guys in the top 30, top 40. Right? Because if you have someone go like, let's say 10, 30, 40, well, that's 80 points right there. And then you're in a what? Like a how big would we say this field's going to be? Like 200 some names? Let's take a look at last year's pre-nats. Last year it was 244 finishers, right? And so if they finish like if their latter 2 names finish like 180 and 190, and what is that? 370 add on to 80. You're getting what? 450? Did I do that math right? And if you get 450 last year, that would have put you at 17th place. So I think there's a scenario where Louisville gets close to top 15. I think it's possible. I mean, if any of their top 3 don't run well, then that's kind of a moot point. But yeah, I would say like Louisville, like 14th, 15th place, if I had to guess. California Baptist. They comfortably took down Wyoming at the Roy Griak Invite earlier this season. Did so without Valentin Silva, who was racing at the World Championships. Did so without Brett Rushman, key UK transfer. And they did so without one other name, Ahmed Faris, top 5K guy as a youngster from Morocco. If they run a full lineup, I think California Baptist could be a top 10 team in this field. I really do. I really think that. I think this is a very good team. I think Soka is going to be a true star. I think they're going to have one other guy probably emerge. Maybe it's Guzman, right? Maybe it's Marin. Maybe Rushman turns out to be great. But there's so many different ways for this team to score big points. There's a lot of different guys who can contribute at a majorly high level. Now, are they going to get all those guys to run at a high level? I don't think so, but like you need 2 or 3. And if you get 2 or 3, you have a shot at the top 10. Because their depth is going to be way better than Louisville's. Like way, way better. And I'm not saying that they're going to have the same level of firepower as Louisville, but they have 3 guys in the top, 60, 70? That'd be a pretty good day, right? 2 more guys around 100th? I mean, that's 120th maybe. Like, I'm just spitballing here, but I think there's just a lot of avenues for California Baptist to do well, and that's why I have them as an underdog. Okay, let's move on to the women's side here. And we have a handful of teams. I'm about to list them off. Here we go. Ready? We have California Baptist, Colorado, Duke, Furman, Georgetown, Gonzaga, Harvard, Indiana, Iowa State, Lipscomb, Louisville, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, New Mexico, North Carolina State, Northern Arizona, Northwestern, Notre Dame, Penn State, Providence, Stanford, Syracuse, Toledo, Tulane, Utah, Washington State, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. My favorites for this race, I have 3. I have NC State women. I have New Mexico women, and I have Northern Arizona. I am putting Northern Arizona in this field. Of those 3, I think NC State is the team that is favored. They've looked exceptional. Really, really good so far. Loyola Lakefront Invite. They didn't field Grace Hartman. They didn't field Kaylee Armitage. They did not field Angelina Napoleon. And they did not field Fleur Templier. So long story short, I don't even know if they ran an A lineup at Loyola Lakefront, and they still scored 34 points for the win. Hannah Gapes looks exceptional. She'll be a low stick. We're going to assume Hartman will race. She'll be a low stick. Napoleon, you would think, after the season that she had, she'll be a low stick. Bethany Mitralik, like, second place at Loyola Lakefront. In theory, in that kind of field, you would think that she's now an All-American contender in threat. And in theory, that's a low stick, right? Then the depth is just, exorbitant. Sadie Engelhardt, Kate Putman, the list goes on and on and on. Brooke Roberts, another great name. Templier, Armitage. The options that NC State has for this lineup are so significant. One of those women could be injured. Knock on wood, that's not the case. But one of these women could be injured, and it wouldn't really matter. Now, if Hartman's hurt, or if, Gapes is hurt, then yeah, it's a different story. So how does NC State lose this race? Well, it ultimately comes down to, I believe, Mitralik and Napoleon. We think both of those women are All-American caliber talents. We think. If, for whatever reason, Napoleon doesn't look like that, and if for whatever reason Mitralik doesn't look like that, that opens the door to a team like New Mexico that is, they have plenty of firepower on their roster. Mercy Karari, Pam Lakosky, Marian Jupniketich, and even Nicola Jansen in her prime was an All-American. Those were 4 women who could, should, or maybe will be All-Americans. 3 of them are already proven cross-country All-Americans. Jupniketich is the 4th one, and we like her quite a bit. We still think she's a top 30 runner in the NCAA. So, that's like where things get tricky. Now, Karari did not look great at Cowboy Jamboree for New Mexico. She looked not, I think she fell back to 32nd place, I want to say. Let's take a look here. As I scroll up here. She was 32nd, yeah. Now, she has to be on. She has to be on fire if New Mexico wants to win this race. And New Mexico's depth is pretty good. It's not as good as NC State's. Not even close. But it's good enough to prop up the firepower of this team and potentially get them a win. They'll be underdogs to do so. I actually, in a weird way, may actually favor Northern Arizona more. Right? Now, excuse me. Northern Arizona had, was it, they were second at Gans Creek Classic, 20-some points behind Florida, but they didn't have Carrie Balaga and they didn't have Addie Engel. If you put those two women back in this lineup and they're firing on all cylinders, then NAU probably wins Gans Creek. Or they at least come very close. But they should have won that race at full health, whatever it may be. If those two women run, and again, we don't have the individual entries for this meet, but if they do run, I think they can win. Again, NC State would need to have some fallback from Napoleon Michalik. Maybe their fifth woman isn't as strong as maybe we think that she's going to be. But Northern Arizona is arguably just as complete, not necessarily better, not necessarily deeper, not necessarily more loaded in firepower. But I think they're just as complete. They can match NC State through a lot of different scoring points. Again, not maybe in terms of firepower, but just through 7 runners, I think they can. So I think it's possible Northern Arizona wins this race. I think it's possible. I mean, Agnes Petigue is awesome. Haley Burns is awesome. I just think that the entirety of this lineup as a whole, I'm trying to go back and try to figure out who else did I potentially miss from Gans Creek. Let's see here. Yeah, that's the men's side. Yeah, Haley Burns, and then Ava Mitchell. That was the other name I'm looking for. Kiki Vaughn, Emma Stutzman. So Nikita Moore, I think, will be better in the future. I don't think they even fielded Kira Moore. So there's a lot of options. There's a lot of really good options. And I don't think I'm taking Northern Arizona to win. I think I'll take NC State, but watch out. The contenders, the teams that could win, but it's not quite likely. Those in my eyes are Colorado, Stanford, West Virginia, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is even then kind of like that. I don't even know if I fully believe them as a contender in this field to win this race, but I think they deserve the respect. Colorado, we have learned Ashley Jones is probably not racing until the postseason. She is having a delayed start to her season. So I think she was dealing with an injury, so she won't be racing at Nuttycombe. We do know that, and I think that's ultimately why I kind of bring back Colorado in this conversation. But this women's team's really good. I could see them placing as high as third, 100%. Absolutely could see them placing as high as third. They didn't run a handful of key women at Gans Creek Classic, and they were still, gosh, what were they? Second, third? I want to say they were second. Let's take a look. No, they were third. Duh, I just talked about Northern Arizona. They were third. And I think they might even get better. I think Abby Nechenecki is awesome. I think Mia LaRochelle is awesome. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, it's Jessie Zakor is a great name. Hannah Prosser is so good. I mean, there's so many avenues for this team to just be better. And I'm so impressed by them. Again, high floor, strong team. I think they'll do well in large fields. So I like Colorado quite a bit. Stanford, again, we didn't really see them race. They had a few women run in the Gans Creek Classic Black race, which is what I think they ran pretty well. Yeah, they easily crushed the field as expected. But freshman Han Thompson got third. Teammates Riley Stewart with fifth, Julia Flynn sixth. Doesn't really tell us a whole lot about them, but hey, at least they look good enough. We'll really kind of get a better idea of this team when they field Emmy Bunnage and when they field Sophia Kennedy and Mina Scatchard. So do I think they're going to win? No. Both Bunnage and Kennedy would need to be at 100%, which is possible. And we don't even know if Bunch is going to race right now, right? And then Scatchard would need to evolve into a low stick, or Thompson would need to evolve into a low stick. Maybe all four of them would need to evolve, into a low sticks. And so I don't see Stanford realistically winning, but do I respect them enough to put them in this tier? Yes, I do. And then it's West Virginia. I love this West Virginia team. I love them a lot more since the transfers that they added right after we had put in our preseason rankings. They were awesome at Louisville, took down a fairly complete Clemson team, and they did so without 1530's 5K runner Naomi Kemboy. They went overall results. They went 3-6-7, 9-14. And again, they didn't run Kemboy. If they run Kemboy, they have a complete top 5. Like Joy Knockout's great. Mercy Kinyajui was a huge addition. So is Anastasia Chepkorir, and Emily Bryce is one of the most underrated support scorers in the country. Like, I would be really careful about trying to rate this team. Like, West Virginia is not a team to take lightly. They've got weapons. They've got multiple low sticks. Do I think they're going to be as good as last year? Not quite, but like, I don't know. Like, like I don't think it's completely off the table. I mean, you really do need Chepkorir and Kinyajui and Bryce to like really step up and be great, and Kemboy needs to come back and so on and so forth. But like, I think in an absolute perfect, pristine, best case scenario, West Virginia has a faint outside shot at the wing at Nuttycombe. Again, a lot would need to go right. A lot. But I like West Virginia. I like them a lot. Okay, teams on watch. Again, teams I think the storylines are interesting, need to prove themselves further, showcase that a poor performance was just that, it was just a fluke. Yeah, it's ultimately the best way to describe this, the teams on watch for this criteria. All right, so California Baptist, first team on this list. They beat Minnesota. The Minnesota team that didn't have Weimer, right, on Minnesota's home course. Now, even if they had Weimer, California Baptist still wins, right, which makes that win that much more impressive. But I think as, now the season has progressed and we've kind of learned that, like, A, Weimer's not coming back this season. And B, like, is Minnesota still that great without her? I don't think we're like super excited about Minnesota right now, which does kind of temper the win from California Baptist at Roy Griak. But this is also the perfect opportunity for CBU to kind of prove themselves, right? Like, we still don't know a whole lot about them, right? Like, Roy Griak is still kind of that one meet where that's all we have on them. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure them out, and I think that's why they're a team to watch. Wisconsin, they were absurdly poor at Loyola Lakefront Invite. Very bad. They dropped to 11th. They only fielded 5 runners. I have a feeling that, like, not everyone was going all out. I don't even know if they ran their best women. Maybe they did, but ultimately, I struggle to believe that Wisconsin would fall to 11th at Loyola Lakefront Invite and that be an accurate reflection of who they are. I don't think they're that bad. I think they're actually going to hold their own on their home course, but this is still a team that you have to watch now because of that. We just don't know. Moving down, Washington. Yeah, they got 4th at Loyola Lakefront Invite, and they fell to NC State, a limited NC State team. They fell to Northwestern. They fell to Gonzaga. And they did so without Julia David-Smith, but like, even if Smith had like won the race, they still don't get all that close to second place Northwestern. Like, their top 4 should be way better. And even if they are better, which I do think the top 4 in this field will have more of a significant impact relative to the scoring than Loyola Lakefront Invite did. But that 5th runner is still going to be a crucial point of contention that must be better. Like, do we think that on paper, Washington is better than what they have shown us so far? Yes. Yeah, I do. I think that. But I don't, it's a little tough to excuse that Lakefront Invite result. So this is kind of the, hey, like, show us that it was a fluke and that your 4 low sticks when firing on all cylinders, assuming David Smith even runs, show us that it's all legit. And I think they will. I think the firepower of those 4 women is just mathematically, it has to work out in their favor. I think. Minnesota, already kind of talked about them. Like, hey, you don't have Weimer this season, struggled against CBU, excuse me. Struggled at Loyola Lakefront, got 8th. Can you muster up anything? Can you salvage the season? Because this is ultimately the race where Minnesota makes or breaks qualifying for the national meet. Like they're probably like, so here's the thing. The Midwest region has Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Iowa State, and Missouri. I guess they could beat one of those 4 teams at the Midwest regional meet and get a Colos point. It's possible. But like, you kind of need the Colos points. They do. They need the Colos points. So in CBU, California Baptist is likely rooting hard for Minnesota. Like, CBU, no one wants Minnesota to do better than CBU. Because the better Minnesota does, the more Colos points Minnesota gets. And if that happens, the more likely Minnesota is to get into the national meet. And if that happens, then CBU gains a Colos point, improving their odds of getting into the national meet. Now, the scary part for CBU is that if Minnesota gets pushed in, they don't get that. They don't get that Colos point. So they don't want Minnesota to get pushed in. They're actually rooting hard for Minnesota. Further down the list, Northwestern, their second place finish, having 3 win in the top 8. It's the top 8, top 7 at Loyola Lakefront Invite. Yeah, they had 7 in the top, 3 in the top 8. Excuse me. It was just so out of nowhere. And it was so impressive. And the level of firepower that we were shown from a team that is historically better on depth. And what do they look like when Sam Reed-Dishon comes in? It's not that I have any doubts about them. I just kind of want to see them do it again. Right? Like, I think it's fair for us to be like, hey, we're going to put you as a team on watch. Not because we need to see something better out of you guys, but because we're just crazy stunned to begin with. We just want to see, can you do it again? And I think that's the best way to describe a scenario for Northwestern is like, can you do it again? North Carolina is a team that, like, I have really no good handle on. DNF at Loyola Lakefront Invite. Sierra O'Shea looks good. She got 11th at Loyola. But everyone else was very spread out. They did not run, oh my gosh, did they not run Vera Soderberg? And they did not run, who was the other name? Oh, Eva Klingbeil. That's who it was. So, like, between UNC not even recording a result, recording a DNF, Maddie Gardner was back in 62nd place. Yeah, I think Logan St. John Kettler, who was back in 86, she'll be better in the future, but, like, it's not great. It wasn't a great result. Does this all dramatically change if Soderberg and Kleinbell are in there? Probably, yeah. Like, Soderberg probably bows with Gapes for the win. Keeps it close. And Kleinbell's probably top 20. But even then, like, North Carolina still is not the top 20 team that we had them tabbed in the preseason. So a lot of it's going to be this weekend is really just learning truly about North Carolina. Because the thing with Loyola, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because NC State didn't run a full lineup, or, Northwestern surprised us so much with their performance, and Washington was off, but they didn't have David Smith, and then UNC is a DNF, and then Minnesota struggles, but they don't have Weimer, and then Wisconsin struggles a lot, but it's just not clear what they were doing. You can see how this is like, how really we were actually left with more questions than answers after Loyola than anything else. And that's why I think a lot of those teams from that field are really just kind of being like on our watch list, because we just don't have a good feel about them. A lot of these teams, and we've talked about it before in this podcast when Ben was here. for whatever reason, a lot of these teams have not yet really fielded some of their top women, their top lineups. I mean, we can go through the list, but like BYU has not, Oregon has not, New Mexico has not yet because they didn't run Pam Lakoski. NC State is not. I'm trying to go through the list. Northern Arizona has not. I think it gets up to our TSR number 6 preseason team, Florida. They have. They're one of the few top teams that have run a full lineup. But Colorado has not. Stanford has not. I'm trying to even figure out like who else. Washington technically has not. So Alabama has not. Those are all the top 10 teams. There's only one team in our top 10 that have run a full lineup so far. It's Florida. So something to keep in mind. Okay. And then finally, Michigan State team to watch. Not great at Gans Creek. Not awful, but not great. They were 13th. They did not have Caitlin Hines. They did not have McKenna Veen. And they did not have Paige Marchand. Now, if you have those 3 women, Michigan State looks way more dangerous, but they all have to run at their best and they all have to be firing on all cylinders, right? So I like the idea of Michigan State, but they underwhelmed last year, and then we were high on them this year, but then they underwhelmed at Gans Creek, but then they didn't have like 3 crucial veterans who really could have changed that lineup formation. But Stuart Barnett didn't really translate any of her steeplechase success to the grass. And Forsyth was good, but she wasn't great. And like you can see how like Michigan State's just kind of an enigma. I don't really even know if like they know what they're gonna get. Like, are we even sure that we're gonna see Veen and Marchand and Hines this weekend? Again, we don't have the entries, but like there's no guarantee that we're gonna see those women. So I'll be very interested to see what happens with Michigan State. Okay, my underdogs. I only got 2 underdogs. Gonzaga. I love Gonzaga. I think they're an awesome team. I love that what Fridolin did at Loyola Lake for an invite. I thought Hofsty and Collins were exactly what they need to be. I think the supporting cast is going to be better. I think Rifkima is going to be an even better support scorer. And I just think they have all the options. I think they're built for this field. I think they have a potential new low stick. And even if they don't, then guess what? They at least have they may not have a sole low stick to replace Rosina Machu, but maybe they'll have a third lead scorer alongside Hofsty and alongside Collins, right? Which is still more scoring support than maybe we originally gave them credit for. So I like Gonzaga a lot. I think they're just built for this field. I think Fridolin raises their ceiling a little bit. Going to be a good team there. And then the other team, Duke. I like Duke. I like Duke a lot. They were 11th at Gans Creek. They had, let's see here, as I skip through a few results. Stephanie Moss in 25th at Gans Creek, like a sneaky good kind of like borderline low stick result. And then they also have not far behind her, Audrey Dadamio in 37th, the Stanford transfer. So they have an Oklahoma State transfer, a Stanford transfer, Victoria Garces, who is a brand new rookie. She was 47th at Gans Creek. Big gap, Jet Bierman, second year at Duke, but she's a transfer from Elon. And then you have Poppy Craig McFeely, who's from the UK, again, new addition this season. Like all 5 of those women are newcomers from somewhere else. They didn't originate within the last year at Duke. Yeah, of course, Garces is is a pure recruit from the high school realm, but like this is a good team. There's a lot of options, a lot of scenarios where someone pops. And I think they have options, and I think they're going to have decent enough depth, or at least they're complete through 5. And Luca Fulkerson, who was, I believe, a transfer from Princeton, she was a DNF. You add her in there. What happens to Duke? Like, how good is Duke? There's a lot of scenarios like where Duke is actually pretty good in this field. Like, they're not perfect, but I don't know if they're going to be much worse than last time. Maybe not in terms of like direct placement, but in terms of like the general impressiveness of their Nuttycombe result, largely equating the general impressiveness that we see from them in the Gans Creek Classic. So like Duke, Gonzaga and Duke, those are my two underdogs. All right, 50 minutes, 51 minutes. We'll take that. We'll take that as a win, although probably have to cut a part of this, so it might actually come off a bit shorter. But neither here nor there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for listening. If you want to go check out our full predictions, our full preview, where I will likely, and I've yet to do this yet, but that will be on Wednesday, Thursday, as when we'll be doing our previews for this meet. We'll likely be offering analysis on every single men's and women's team in the championship race fields. Go check that out on the site at the Stride Report. Go check us out on YouTube. A lot of great stuff on YouTube coming not just now, but also in the future. And of course, 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple and on Spotify. I'd sincerely appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And stay tuned. Stay tuned. I think we're going to get Ben back next week. So, all right, guys, that's all I got. And I'll talk to you soon. See ya.